If you're a home builder in the United States of America, you're going to want to pay close attention to what I've got to say in this video. My name's Ryan Stewman. I am the president and CEO of Closer Capital, where we help entrepreneurs secure access to the capital they need in order to grow and scale their business, including real estate investors like you might be. You know, one of the problems that a lot of investors run into is they find a deal and they have a strict guideline from the underwriter or from the lender that keeps them from being able to get financing approved on the property. Sometimes it's snafus that happen with properties. Sometimes it's a credit issue or not having enough cash reserves, whatever the case may be. And it prohibits a lot of investors in specifically builders from being able to go out there and expand their real estate business by building, flipping, fixing more properties. Well, at Closer Capital, I've always looked at that and thought a fix and flipper or a builder is probably the most secure asset that you can leverage when it comes to real estate, right? The average homeowner's house, like, we don't know what that's going to look like when we purchase it. If we were to purchase it blind from an auction, I know that I've bought homes from auction before that have been owned by hoarder. I bought a house in Plano, Texas a few years ago, 6 years ago now. I bought it at auction, paid for it, went and opened the front door of the house because it was sealed off. You couldn't get there. There wasn't any way for me to check it out or see through the windows. And this house was built in '79. They hadn't thrown anything away the entire time that house existed. So I had a lot cut out for me there. But I improved the house, ultimately sold it, and made a profit. Homeowners, not so much. You know, homeowners, they sometimes improve the house and go on for make a profit, but you never know what you're really going to get. So in my opinion, betting on a rehabber to fix and flip and improve the property, betting on a builder to make something and improve the property, as long as they've got the proper budget and they don't go outside of the budget that they set, then that's the most secure and likely to appreciate asset that you can have in real estate. Now, there's no such thing as a guarantee, but that's pretty close to it in my book. So I set out to help builders specifically, and this also trickles down to the investors, but to help builders specifically be able to secure the capital and the financing they need. What I mean by that is I'm talking to my client that I coached last year, and he's got 6 houses on the ground. And he's having to make payments on all 6 houses. He hasn't got paid on any of the 6 houses because the bank gave him a 70% loan to value on each one of those homes. So he barely had enough money to construct the property in general. And so builders typically tack on 10 to 20% contractor fee. That's how they get paid. And then you're going to sell it with a real estate agent. They're going to want 5-6%. You're going to have 2-3% closing costs, including title, taxes, things of that nature. So, you know, that eats up the additional 30%, but he's not going to get paid till that sells. And if the house sells, it's going to get under contract for 30 days. So, you know, these houses had been on the market for a minute, and he was floating the notes, but he was starting to run low on money. And he's like, the problem is, and I told him, well, why don't you refinance one of these? He said, well, I'm not trying to rent it, so it's only buying me more time and costing me more equity and closing costs in the property, which makes sense. And he said, the problem is they don't ever allow us to get paid up front. We have, as a builder, we have to wait until we sell the property before we get any kind of profit, unless you're padding your number somewhere, which this guy in particular didn't do. That led me down a long rabbit hole of finding the right connections and way to get money to help builders scale more. And what I've come up with and what we've put together at Closer Capital is a plan where builders can now get 90% of the value of the house. Now, builders, just hear me out. I love you guys, but I know y'all like to inflate what a house is actually worth, so we got to be careful on that. But we will give you 90% of what an final appraisal after repaired, after constructed value would be. So let's just use general terms. You've got a house you're going to sell for $1 million, and you're into it. It's going to cost you $700,000 to construct it over an 18-month period of time, right? And you know, if you're in Frisco, Texas, $1 million doesn't get you that far. If you're in Ardmore, Oklahoma, $1 million is something really special and nice. So, you know, it just depends on where you're at. But I'm just using these numbers so we have round numbers. You're in at $700,000. Now, typically, you are in at $700,000 and you stand to make $200,000 when it closes at $1 million, but you've got to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 months while it's on the market and it's under contracting and financing is getting secured and all that on top of you already building the thing. Instead, through Closer Capital at 90%, you get paid all your money up front, right? As you make draws, you put in a portion for your personal 20% as well. And by the time that you've built this thing in 18 months, you've already made the 200 grand and you're just the last 10%, the 90 to 100% of the value bridge just goes to pay 6% in realtor costs, 3% in closing costs, 1% in taxes. Very simple process. So now what does that allow you to do? That allows you, the builder, to go get a spec home at 90% and get paid. You don't got to wait a year and a half. That allows you to go out and leverage spec house number 2 or even a house that's been bought by consumers. One of the biggest problems that builders face too is they have a buyer, but they got to build the house before the buyer can buy it. A lot of buyers don't qualify for construction loans. A lot of them don't understand it. A lot of them would rather just go down the street to D.R. Horton or some big box custom home maker and just deal with it that way versus you, the builder, being able to carry the note 90%, get your money up front, have a secure contract in place, sell it to them and exit it when the thing's over with, and being able to replicate that through spec houses, previously pre-purchased homes. And dude, it is a way for builders to actually get paid as they scale. The biggest problem that builders have, in my 21 years experience in this business, watching them, working with builders like D.R. Horton, Pulte, Busher, 20 years ago when they were nowhere near the size that they are now, I've watched these builders struggle to go take on the next development or open the next phase because they've got, all their money tied up. And as soon as they get paid on one thing, now all of a sudden they got to dump it into the next thing to keep going. This allows you to manage your cash flow better. Predictable prices, predictable appraised values, predictable costs of building, predictable padded in your 20% plus the final 10 on the exit. So if you're a builder, and there's a lot more that I can go into and a lot more questions I'm sure you have than I could just put together in a YouTube video. But if you are a fix and flipper, we do those at 80 to 85% depending on the credit package and the actual asset that we're loaning against, the piece of real estate. But we have high loan to values, after repair values on those as well. If you're a fixer flipper, if you're a builder and you're looking to get your money up front instead of starving to death until you get a massive payday, then having to turn around and use that to get the next deal, give me a call. I've got super low interest rates. I did a perfect deal last week. The interest rate was sub 8%. So, but again, that was a perfect deal. Amazing asset, amazing borrower, proven track record. So I don't want to say that's always the case, but like worst case scenario these days in hard money, you're going to take 12, 13%. Worst case scenario. A lot of times we're seeing single digit interest rates right now, which we weren't seeing a year or so ago. So now's the time to lock that rate in, borrow the money now, build the house over the next 6 to 18 months, get your money along the way so you're not starving as you're waiting on it to sell, scale your business. Because listen, there is a massive lack of inventory right now, and this allows you and I, you the builder, me the lender, to be part of the solution and make some money in the process. So go to closercap.com, pull out your information, put it all in there. We can have a conversation with me or somebody on my team. You can ask us questions. We can get you dialed in, get a game plan together, get you pre-approved, look at your plans. Whatever you want to do, we're here to serve you and be on your team and help you scale as quickly as possible by using and leveraging our capital. So go to closercap.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. If you know a builder or a real estate fix and flip investor, send them this video. Tell them to go to closercap.com and connect with me. I can help them make more money and make their life easier. Catch you on the next video.